Let's get fucking started.
I've been waiting on you for 10 minutes. This dude thinking Naruto. What's wrong with you, nigga? Start the show. Fuck is wrong with you?
Yo, get out of here with them weak ass shoes, yo.
Balls deep. I'm talking about balls deep. I'm talking about balls deep in love. I'm talking about balls deep. I'm talking about balls deep. I'm talking about balls deep in love. We've been, on a week's hiatus, you can say. We didn't drop an episode last week, but we did promise them that we'd be talking about the MLB and being that it was, going into All-Star break, but now that, we're coming off of All-Star break, what did you think?
Um, I mean it's dope. I get I mean, not even just specifically talking about the All Star break, but just talking about the MLB in general for right now. Or at least in this instance, there's like a new life to it, and it's actually really exciting, kind of to watch. Because like just the players, I mean, their personalities, the swagger they carry, um, they're all so different. Like, you know what I mean? Like, everybody's so different in the MLB now. Everybody just the way they carry themselves, the way they go about playing the game, everything seems fun. Like, players are genuine. Like, we've seen players in the last few years like wearing the, make baseball fun again T-shirts and shit like that. It's like it genuinely feels like it is again. Just in general when you're watching them play the game, but then seeing them all together during the All-Star break again, and seeing Shohei Ohtani go up against Soto in the home run derby, and just guys going crazy because um, they're going into like crazy amount of overtimes, and then Pete Alonso hitting the walk off to win it, and it's like players going sick. So it's just exciting to see like everybody having fun again, players kind of not doing what they want, but just enjoying themselves while they're playing the game of baseball. You know what I mean? Because they call it America's pastime and whatever, but it almost seemed like there was so many unwritten rules in baseball where like people were just getting bothered by the smallest things. Like, just let the dudes play the game that they love to play and enjoy themselves while they're doing it. And it actually feels like people are now, which is amazing. So, I mean, that's just my little take on it.
Yeah, I agree 100% with everything you said. It definitely does have a different feel to it, and I think it's just because of the amount of stars that baseball has. Usually, in past years, they only have like a handful of stars amongst the elite in baseball, but it almost seems like now we have a so big of a crop of stars that basically there's so much to go around for all of the throughout all the fan bases throughout the MLB, and a lot of them are younger guys, which is contributing to almost like recruiting the younger generation to the sport. So it's definitely a different feel to it. I do think MLB is trying to make adjustments to I guess accommodate to the younger generation, and you can definitely tell they're trying, which is good because keeping it stagnant and complacent isn't going to get you anywhere. Uh, and I think they came to the realization, and I think it's been long overdue. They should have been trying to make these adjustments and things like that, but the fact that they're actively pursuing it is good. As for the All Star break, I actually enjoyed it. I mean, they paid homage to Hank Aaron. I don't know if you noticed, all the players wore number 44 for the All Star game. And at first, I was confused. I was like, why is Shohei Ohtani wearing 44? And then next thing you know, someone else walked by. I'm like, why is he wearing 44? That's not his number. I think Judge was wearing 44. Yeah. And I'm like, what the heck? And then the announcer was like, oh, MLB is playing homage to the late great Hank Aaron. I'm like, oh, that's amazing. Just the fact that they're paying respect to him and things like that. That was awesome. And then we get to the home run derby, and I'm over here commentating it on Xbox to you and stuff. I'm like, oh shit, Shohei Ohtani and Juan Soto going to double overtime, and he was like, I'm not gonna. Nah, I'm fucking. I'm gonna call you out. He was like, I hope Shohei Ohtani loses, because that's if he wins, that's all they're gonna talk about. But it was amazing. Even though he did lose, it was a great storyline in terms of the drama. But the home run derby never lets me down. Um, like if you compare it to other All-Star break events like the slam dunk competition, it's the slam dunk competition. It's either a hitter or it's not. It's a hit or a miss. Whereas the home run derby, I feel like it's always a hitter because, well, no puns intended, but it's a it's always a hitter because it's always exciting, and like a lot of the thing. Someone I forgot who said it, but a lot of the dunks that happen in slam dunk contest we've seen already at like these dunkers that are on Instagram and stuff like that. They do it in these parks. Or if not, they're doing better dunks than are winning the dunk contest. Whereas a home run derby, no one else is hitting a home run or hitting a ball 400 plus feet. Like it's just amazing to watch, and then to at the highest competition too, it's phenomenal.
No, I agree, and it's so weird because like a home run derby is way more repetitive than a dunk contest, but
Yeah,
somehow the home run derby manages to keep that like spark. It manages to keep that like factor of just like maintaining the viewer's interest somehow. Like I don't know what it is, but it's very exciting to watch home run derbies. Even though they are, I mean, technically more repetitive than a dunk contest, but it's so weird, like the feeling you get from watching a home run derby. It's
the funny
odd.
thing is watching the home run derby. I feel like we're all the aliens from Toy Story. We're like, ooh,
Ooh.
because just because they're hitting the ball further and further away, and it was like, oh shit, like that's awesome.
No.
So and I think I like the setup now, how they have it basically as a bracket and stuff like that. And I think what helps too is the best of the best always come out and contribute to that event. Whereas the dunk contest, they have issues getting the elite to contribute to
Yeah.
that. Like you don't see LeBron in the dunk contest, but Shohei Ohtani, the leading home run guy, he's the guy that's leading the league in home runs, is in the dunk contest. Like it's almost similar to the 3-point contest. His Steph always contributes to that. Clay when healthy does. Duncan Robinson and a bunch of other like elite 3-point specialists are in that competition. Although I think I probably enjoyed the home run derby slightly more. That might be biased, but I enjoy it. I really do. Um, and I hope they continue because I think it was almost like a breath of fresh air. The baseball needed it. I think the sports world needed it. But I don't want to get into it, but a lot was surrounding Shohei Ohtani, especially with the comments that Stephen A. Smith made. And he, retracted his statement, basically saying that he personally wasn't saying it, and he apologized for it because, he said it in a manner that came off disrespectful to just Asian Americans in general. Like he came off the wrong way, but he was basically saying that maybe what he said was that because Shohei Ohtani needs a translator and doesn't speak English publicly, it's not good for baseball. But he was trying to say like maybe the MLB is perceiving it that way because they're not marketing him as they should because he is one of the biggest stars that they have. And but he came off as something wrong because at first I was like, what he said it was he sounds like an idiot. But after him explaining himself and apologizing, I can see where he's coming from because baseball doesn't market their stars. And I think
Yeah.
they haven't marketed their stars since Ken Griffey Jr. or
Yeah.
Derek Jeter.
And I feel like I feel like that is more so the fault of the MLB rather than it being the fact that he's Japanese American. I believe
Yeah.
he's Japanese. Um, like I don't think it's necessarily the fact that they don't want to put him out there more because he doesn't speak English. I think it's like what you just touched on. It's just that the MLB doesn't necessarily do that for the superstars the way they should. But I mean, he's definitely wrong in the sense of the MLB isn't marketing him. I mean, I guess enough because if we're talking in terms of as far as the MLB will go in terms of marketing their players, they market him probably more or as much as any of their other guys. Then that includes, for the Fernando Tatises of the world and the Javi Baez's and the Aaron Judges, because I follow the MLB everywhere, and he's constantly being, shown off
Yeah,
to the
but
world.
I
So,
just feel
but
like they don't market
yeah,
their
no,
players enough in
I
general
agree. That's
because
exactly.
Mike we can agree that Mike Trout's the best player in baseball.
Oh, probably ever.
But yeah, but they don't you don't see them marketing him like they
Oh
did
yeah.
with Ken Griffey Jr. or Derek Jeter. Even then, I feel like it was more of the persona that marketed itself. They didn't really do that, which kind of hurts them. But with having a superstar of the stature, because you can say he's the first player. You could say he's the first player we've seen closest to Babe Ruth. Like he's pitching, he's hitting at an elite level, and they're not marketing him, especially with him being an international player too. At that, like that's could put a lot of uh, like limelight, a lot of you know attention to you and your league, but you don't do it or you don't do it enough to kind of take advantage of that. Like this is probably the most talent we've seen in the league at once, especially young talent. Like you said, you got Fernando Tatis, you got Aaron Judge, Shohei Ohtani, Mike Trout, you got Acuna, you got like a bunch of people, bro,
Yeah,
and
plenty of talented guys. Yeah.
they seem to be stagnant and just stuck in their old ways. It just drives me insane.
No, yeah. I mean, I completely agree. Like I said, I definitely don't think they're not marketing him enough compare like relative to the rest of their stars. I think
Yeah.
they are, but I agree 100% that in general they don't do very well marketing their superstars. And I think that's a big issue, and kind of what I was touching on earlier, as well as you, is like making baseball fun again, keeping people interested, and also kind of engaging with younger fans as well. I feel like that's a big part of it, because you see a lot with the NFL doing that, and that's why you see kids walking around with the Odell Beckham Jr. hairstyle and shit like that, and so, you know what I mean? Like it's just small things like that, that if baseball did better, I completely agree. I mean, that would help their game times a thousand. So, but yeah, I think they definitely need to do a better job marketing their players.
But now that we All-Star break is over, the trade deadline is now approaching. So baseball, the second half of baseball has already begun. Uh, Trade deadline is approaching. So my question to you is, what moves would you like to see as the deadline approaches?
My moves don't necessarily involve the Yankees at all,
Okay.
but involves two players, two of which definitely I could see the Yankees trying to acquire, because I think they could use help at this position. But it's starting pitching. I would like to see two players moved. And that is Trevor Story of the Colorado Rockies, and that's Max Scherzer of the Washington Nationals. Um, I mean, Trevor Story, we've heard, you know, I mean, his name comes up all the time as a target that's going to be on the move, and he's yet to move. But I think he's gonna be one of them. I definitely think Scherzer's gonna end up being one of them. I mean, he's already got his chip with the Nationals. Um, but there are plenty of teams that could use pitching help. The Sox are one of them, and the Sox are playing great, but the Sox could definitely use some help at pitching.
Or what? Red
Uh,
Sox or White Sox?
Red Sox, sorry. The Yankees could use pitching. We've been talking about it for years. The Yankees need pitching. The Angels are another team I could see. Like, you know what I mean? Like the Colorado Rockies, they're in no place right now to um they're sellers. You know what I mean? Like they gotta get rid of Trevor Story and gain some capital so that they could kind of be back on the come up. And so that's why I feel like it's almost inevitable that he's gone. And Nationals, obviously they're fresh off coming off a title a few years ago, but they're definitely not the same team they were. They're out of the hunt by a few games. They're probably in like fifth place, I believe, last I checked, in their division alone. Or yeah, in their division they're in like fourth or fifth place. Not many games out. But again, like I said, they're not in a spot in which they think that they're comfortable staying where they are, unless they're buying a whole lot. You know what I mean? So, those two pitchers I'd like to see go to contending teams that are really just a couple pitchers away. And again, I mentioned the Angels. I'd love to see Trevor Story or Max Scherzer on the Angels, specifically because somebody we just talked about, Mike Trout, for years. I mean, it's been tough for the Angels to really put a team around them. Um, and now they're finally acquiring some talent. And I think acquiring a guy like Max Scherzer or Trevor Story to kind of bolster down that rotation, with already having a two-way player in Shohei Ohtani. You have Mike Trout. You have plenty of talent on that team. I think this is a perfect time for the Angels to, where I said the Colorado Rockies are sellers. It's perfect time for the Angels to become big buyers and really try to make some moves, because it's not out of the realm of possibility that they could make a decent run, if not this year, in the next few years, if they acquired a guy like Trevor Story or especially Max Scherzer. So those are two pitchers that I'm expecting to see move.
Pitchers,
And
Stories is a shortstop.
no, Trevor Story. Trevor Story. I thought he was the. He is a shortstop. I'm thinking of somebody else. My bad. I'm thinking of somebody else. What's the pitcher's name that the
Brown.
Yankees were gonna try to acquire? Bauer. But
Oh,
Bauer already.
Bauer.
Yeah. I'm
He went
pretty
to the
sure.
Dodgers.
Yeah, but he already moved. So yeah, I would like to see Max Scherzer moved. Um. Obviously, I'm not Story now because I'm talking
Well,
about
still,
pitching.
Story's still gonna get
But
moved.
yeah, Story is still going to get moved. But yeah, I would just like to see Max Scherzer go to a team that's going to contend. More specifically, like I said, a team like the Angels that's so close to finally putting a team around a guy like Mike Trout who really deserves to win. So, you know.
Well, yeah, I've been on the record here on the podcast saying that Scherzer, well, the Angels were losers at one point in time this season because of how bad they've been doing and the talent that they have. Like, you have two of the best players in baseball, and you still are at the bottom of your division. Like, doesn't make any sense. And the big reason why is pitching. So someone of Max Scherzer's caliber that's on the market, you better go get him. I mean, they try to take a dip in free agency, and it was a fail. Pretty much Otani's your ace and your second best. Oh, right now he's probably your best hitter, and Trout's your second best hitter, but he's your second best player in general, and he's doing it all literally. So, uh, getting Scherzer kind of takes some leverage off his back because he's not doesn't have so much pressure on his shoulders when he's on the mound. Although I'm pretty sure he doesn't really care. But it definitely helps contribute, especially because they can talk and give pointers to one another and things of that nature. But you did take one of my guys in Trevor Story, so I guess I'll say it the way you said it. But there's a few guys that I would like to see get moved. One of which was a surprise to me when I seen an article, and I had to bring it to our attention to one of our friends that is a fan of the team, Byron Buxton of the Minnesota Twins. I've seen an article saying that they're going to try to resign him, but if he declines their contract extension, they will shop him.
Another team that can use pitching as well. The
so,
Twins.
so Byron Buxton, he's a center fielder. For those that don't understand, he's one of the fastest in the league. So defensively, he's a monster. Hitting wise, he's not like of the elite, but he's pretty good. So the Yankees, I'm not saying they're gonna get him, but that could be someone that they could also get too because they've been looking for outfielders with Aaron Hicks being down. Even though haven't really been a fan of Hicks, uh, he's just been too inconsistent for me, and he's always been on the injury list. But they're looking for outfielders. Got tongue tied. Specifically a center fielder, and that's what Byron Buxton is. So that would be nice. But if not, a lot of championship contenders can use someone of Byron Buxton's caliber, uh, like the Dodgers, not the Dodgers, the Giants, for example. They've been looking for outfielders for some time. Um, Even you could even say the Mets too. But another player that I was thinking of is Joey Gallo. So he's another outfielder, but he's from the Texas Rangers. We've seen him in the home run derby. He's a power hitter. The Yankees are talking about getting him too, but I don't want to acquire him if that means keeping Stanton as well, just because I feel like we're gonna have too many power hitters and only one DH spot. I feel like Stanton has really hurt the Yankees, not due to his performance, but the fact that we seem to tie him to the DH role and not kind of rotate it in and out, so we're kind of stuck in our old ways. And another thing that I kind of hope for as the deadline approaches, this one I mentioned the Yankees already twice, but I want to see Aaron Boone get fired because
That's not a part of the trade deadline.
it's not a part of the trade deadline, but as the trade deadline approaches, I hope he gets fired because he keeps saying the Yankees are turning the corner, and then you look and the Yankees are fucking getting torched. Like they're back to the same old ways.
They're up and down. They're hot and cold. They took 2 out of 3 from the first place Sox in the series
Oh no,
a couple days ago.
I'm not
Like
saying specifically that, but I'm just saying like he seems like every so often when the Yankees win one game, he's the Yankees are turning it around, and then next thing you know, we're back to the same old bullshit.
No, that's what I'm saying. They've been hot and cold because there are times where it looks like they might be able to turn it around. And I don't think you should. I don't think. I'm not saying necessarily you. I don't think anybody should sleep on them. But at the same time, they do have to show something because one day they are, like I said, they're beating the first place Sox, and then the next day they're losing to a team that they shouldn't. It's almost like kind of, you know what I mean? They're losing the games that they shouldn't be most of the time, which is a problem.
So the Giants could be interested in Trevor Story, like you were just like you mentioned Trevor Story.
Yeah.
The Giants could be interested in him too, just because their shortstop Brandon Crawford, he just got moved to the injury list with an oblique strain. So who knows how long that's going to sideline him for?
No, but yeah, I mean, you're probably not the only Yankees fan that feels that way about Boone. He hasn't made the best decisions. A lot of the glaring ones seem to be like late in games. Like pitching changes. We end up losing a lot of games like that. So, yeah, no, you're definitely not the only Yankees fan that feels that way. And I'm not gonna say that I necessarily feel that way or I don't. But he definitely has made some pretty impactful mistakes.
They were saying they gave him the keys to a Ferrari, and
No,
he's driving it like a fucking Honda Civic.
yeah, nah, he hasn't made the best decisions, in game decisions. I completely agree. He's lost a good amount of games.
Yes. So another move that I would like to see is Craig Kimbrel, the relief pitcher. I think he just needs a new opportunity elsewhere.
Yeah.
He needs a role on a winning team that's going to compete for a championship. So I think he's deserving of it, and I think whoever lands him is going to be in. I'd like to see where he lands because it could be interesting on because they're talking about teams like I think the Rays that can grab him. Who the Rays are playing well. The Padres. So it could be interesting. It could be interesting.
It'll be interesting to see him go to a team like the Blue Jays, even who's very young, and they're very good as well.
They've turned things around due not because of George Springer, but since he's returned, they've seemed to be getting it together. They had 2 All-Stars in Vladimir Guerrero Jr.
Yeah, I mean Springer.
and Bo Bichette.
Mm-hmm.
So
they have plenty of talent.
They look like a promising team
on that team. They have Lourdes Gurriel, Vladimir Guerrero, George Springer, Bo Bichette, Marcus Semien, Kevin Biggio. Like they have a lot of good.
They have a promising squad.
Definitely.
So to shift over from sport to sport, we're going to be talking about the NFL now. And before we get started to talk about the NFL, we want to announce that Jovan and I are going to be bringing back the NFL divisional breakdowns in the coming weeks. Last year we did it. It seemed like you guys enjoyed it. So this year, Jovan had the NFC last year. He's going to take over the AFC, and I'm going to take over the NFC this year. And we're going to go division by division and break it down. And we're going to at least, give it some time before the actual season, because I know when we dropped it last year, we were dropping it as the season was starting. So we're gonna drop it a little earlier so you guys can see our breakdown prior to week 1 rather than on week 1. So we hope you guys enjoy. So just stay tuned for the coming weeks. We'll be dropping our breakdowns. You know what moves are going to impact our breakdowns? So
What's that?
one move that might impact our breakdowns, I know it's definitely going to impact mine. Cam Akers, it was just announced he just tore his Achilles while training. So the Rams lose their leading rusher heading into training camp. I think we're 1 week out from training camp. So that's a big blow to them and their championship aspirations. And so we'll dive deep into that. And then another one is Aaron Rodgers. We still don't know where he's going, and it's even more in question now because it said there's rumors, or not rumors, but basically news that just broke saying that the Packers offered him a 2-year extension that would have kept him there for 5 years and made him the highest paid player in the NFL, and he turned it down. So that's proof that it's not about the money. It's not about the money. And a big team that they're saying that he might go to is the Broncos if he does get traded, which I don't want to see. If it does happen, let it happen after week 1 because, the Giants play the Broncos week 1. But let's get your thoughts on it.
We going It don't matter if we got to face him week 1 anyways, because then we're gonna have to see him in the Super Bowl. So.
But give your thoughts on Cam
That's
Akers,
what my
and
NFC
then we'll talk
breakdown would
about
have
Aaron
looked like.
Rodgers.
That was just the peek into what my NFC breakdown would have looked like. Giants all the way. What? I'm sorry. What was your question again?
So I just want to get your thoughts on like the Cam Akers news
Oh
before
yeah.
we get into Aaron Rodgers.
Not yet. I mean, we were talking a little bit about. We were speaking a little bit about you know, Matthew Stafford the other day, because the conversation came up about Matthew Stafford and Dak Prescott. We were talking about who the better quarterback was. I mean, that's neither here nor there right now, but
That could be a poll of the week.
Oh, def. But I did. I mean, I'm pretty sure you probably remember me mentioning, and I'm sure a lot of people feel this way, that I think Matthew Stafford is probably going to have the best season of his career with this Rams team. I think it's the most talented offense as a whole that he's ever had around him. And I think the reason that he's kind of always been underrated and not really cared for or talked about or taken seriously is due to the fact that he's in Detroit and they never really had, pieces to put around him. But on that note, obviously losing your leading rusher it's huge. You know what I mean? Like, and this is something that the Rams kind of just had to go through with, Todd Gurley, getting injured and kind of playing on a bad knee, basically his entire career in the NFL almost. But yeah, so it's definitely gonna be tough because a big part of getting your passing game going, especially with the guys that the Rams got, they don't really have that. Like, I mean, they have a great wide receiver core, but they don't have that guy. I mean, they have a lot of good talented players, so it's gonna be tough to kind of get that passing game going without, Cam Akers there to kind of bolster down that run game as well as the catching passes in the backfield. It's definitely going to be a lot tougher, and that losing him could be the difference between them, winning and losing a couple games, which a couple games is the difference, especially in that division. Um, the difference between winning and losing a division. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's, the difference between wild card or, a 4-3 spot. So it's definitely huge, and it sucks to see. I hate to see people lose. You lose their seasons on torn Achilles, torn ACL. I mean, it just happened to one of my favorite players last year, a Giant, Saquon Barkley. So you hate to see it happen, but I wish him a speedy recovery, man. It really sucks.
Yeah, it almost seems like they're when they seem to have some things figured out, there's always a catch. And I agree with Matthew Stafford. I think in terms of playmakers, this is the best playmakers he's had around him. Obviously, the best one of his career was Calvin Johnson, but in terms of balance, like this is probably the best running game that he would have had I think last year was his best running backs that he had in Detroit with DeAndre Swift, but they didn't take advantage of him till later. And then now Cam Akers, I felt like it was going to pan out for him because he had weapons and a quarterback that defenses had to fear because of his arm and the ability that he's able to do with that. So that was going to open the run game up for Cam Akers, and Cam Akers can contribute in the pass game as well. So I'm kind of questioning, like, do they just have that next man up mentality because they did draft Darrell Henderson not that long ago to kind of be the guy to take over after Todd Gurley, or even just help out? Or do they go out, because I know they're tight against the cap, like, do you go out and sign a vet to like a vet minimum deal if that's even possible? I would have to look at the numbers, but Todd Gurley's still on the market and he's familiar with the offense. Maybe you bring him back and just do a running back by committee with him and Henderson and Malcolm Brown. Or there's like a Le'Veon Bell still on the market who can contribute. He's not his old self, but he can contribute. There's Adrian Peterson is still on the market too. I mean, he's not as good of a pass catcher as the other two guys, but he can still run the ball. He's still got some juice left in them legs. Like, I wonder how they're gonna handle the situation, especially going into training camp. It's so close to the season, and to have this big blow happen, it sucks. It really does. But if it were to happen, you rather it happen now rather than in season, because you have more time to have these guys adjust to getting the first team reps, or even it's a longer time for K makers to recover from this injury, so to be ready for next year, rather than if it were to happen like mid-season, for example. So it does suck. I really do hope he has a speedy recovery, because I felt like he was bound for big things this season. And
No,
it's definitely going to impact my breakdown for sure.
yeah, I mean, honestly, like the that move, that move as big as it was, I still think that move for Stafford was so underrated. Just due to the fact that like that, I feel like that, like they talk about Jared Goff made it to the Super Bowl, with the Rams. Like I get that. And there's no slight on Jared Goff, but he's not Matthew Stafford, and that the leap the leap that he gave that Rams offense when he joined is just leaps and bounds above what Jared Goff would have ever been able to accomplish with that team. Um, you know what I mean, offensively.
Yeah.
But again, like we said, I mean, all the players you mentioned are definitely uh, solid pickups that I think the Rams should definitely be heavily considering, because um, you can't just lose your lead back like that and kind of
Yeah.
not make some form of recovery. And I think all those guys are solid choices, because I think all those guys could make
Contribute
make
somehow, some way.
contribute somehow in impactful ways. Maybe not in the same sense of a Cam Akers, but a guy like Todd Gurley, Adrian Peterson still has some of the best numbers over the last like 3 or 4 years of all the backs in the league.
Running the ball.
Yeah, running the ball. Like over the last 3 or 4 years, like we're not even talking about the best years of his career right now.
And he was on Washington where they didn't have no
Yeah,
weapons, or not no
100%.
weapons. They didn't have everything put together, I should say, because they did have Terry McLaurin, but they didn't
100%.
have everything put together. The quarterback, there was always new quarterback under center and things of that nature. So he still has some juice in them in the legs, is what,
Definitely.
like, basically what I was saying.
No,
Uh,
100%.
and I just want to correct myself. I said they could do a rotation of Darrell Henderson and Malcolm Brown. Malcolm Brown is no longer a member of the Rams. He's a member of the Miami Dolphins. So now they only have Darrell Henderson, who they drafted a few years ago, and everyone else behind Darrell Henderson is, I'm assuming, is a rookie, or they're just inexperienced. They don't have like that in-game experience. So what do? Do you wait till, like, roster cuts and just pick someone up from waivers, or do you make the move now? Like, you're heading into training camp. This is the perfect time to, get someone under, the idea of what you want to do. And honestly, I think the best move for them might be Todd Gurley. Like, if the relationship is still cool between you guys, because I don't know how it ended between the two, but I think if everything is good, I think that might be the best move because he knows the playbook.
Yeah.
He knows LA. He knows Sean McVay, and yes, he's not Todd Gurley of old, but he knows going in he's not going to be the guy. He's going to be a running back by
Yeah.
committee, but he's still one of the best red zone backs in the league. Like goal line backs, he was top of the league last year. He's not the bell cow anymore. He's not gonna run you to the Super Bowl like he did a few years back. But he can contribute in the running game and the pass game when needed. But come when you're in the red zone or at the goal line, he can pound the rock in.
Yeah. No, and I was gonna say, 100%. When you're thinking just specifically playbook wise, Todd Gurley's the easy choice because, like you said, you're so close to training camp, having to kind of learn a whole new playbook. It's difficult. It's, you know what I mean. It's not gonna be something that's just gonna come to you like that. Um, but honestly, play style wise, who I think you get the most out of, um, I think is Le'Veon Bell. I'd love to see that. His ability to run the ball and also, again, like I said, somebody that's going to be able to catch passes out in the backfield. I think that Rams team will be very dangerous with Le'Veon Bell. I mean, we saw him with the Chiefs, like you said. He's not the same Le'Veon Bell. That's clear that he's not the same Le'Veon Bell because if he was, he probably would have been utilized a lot more. But at the same time, I don't think he was being utilized. Um,
Enough.
and enough in either KC or in New York.
Yeah,
Um,
I think he has something to prove. He has a chip on his shoulder, and
definitely.
it's not a chip on the shoulder just saying that he's the same old running back, but more so like he's still got it. Like
Yeah,
he's not a scrub because especially with the beef that he seems to have with Andy Reid and the Chiefs, um, that probably can play a factor into his performance, but also the fact that this might be the best team that he joins. Oh, now I had to take that back. The Chiefs are good, but in terms of the opportunity, he's going to get the opportunity and on a good team for the first time since his Pittsburgh Steelers days.
yeah. No,
I was trying to say like the Chiefs are good, have the opportunity to start or be like the number one guy, whereas now he kind of like, if you sign him to a 1 year deal, this is a prove it deal for him,
yeah,
but it's also like he's gonna get the opportunity and he's not gonna be the focus of like for defense. Like
yeah,
the defenses are gonna be paying attention to the passing game, and he's gonna be second nature. Like he's gonna just be there, and they can use him as a gadget, like receiver in the backfield. Doesn't matter.
yeah.
They can move him around.
No, and I get what you're saying because it's weird, but it almost seems like the way, not just the way you're saying it, but the way it actually seems is like the Chiefs were almost too good for
They had too
him to
many
kind of,
weapons.
yeah, for him to get that opportunity. Whereas the Rams, not that they're not really good, they're a really good football team. But they're not, their offense isn't Chiefs good. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not that same level of, so I definitely think there's more opportunity for him to succeed there, especially now with a guy like, Cam Akers going down, than he would have ever had in terms of, being a Chief or a Jet.
And I'm excited because if he were to go there, to see him under Sean McVay, who's the offensive genius. He's coming up with new ideas, or like he likes to say on his podcast, Flying Coach. So he says the best coaches are the best, stealers. Like he steals, uh, like things he sees from like around the league.
Yeah,
So uh, he can figure it out how to utilize someone of Le'Veon Bell's ability, even though he's not prime Le'Veon Bell. So that would be dope. But my guess would be that they don't sign any of these guys that we're naming, and they just wait till the roster cuts and then
yeah,
sign someone then. Because I think they're gonna end up going in with this to the season with Henderson as the number one guy, but they'll sign people as depth and kind of just rotate for running back by committee. But that's neither here or there. Let's talk about Aaron Rodgers. Is he done? Where's he going? What are your thoughts?
um, I don't know, man. It's so tough to call because I don't know that he necessarily wants out. You know what I mean? Like it almost, everybody's saying like he's gone, he's gone. Like I can see that. Like, you know what I mean? He declined a 2 year extension, like you mentioned earlier. Declined a 2 year extension that would have had him there for 5 more years. Would have made him the highest paid player in the NFL for probably who knows how long. Because as soon as the next quarterbacks gets extended, that's out the window. But he would have been the highest paid player in the NFL. He would have been there for 5 more years, which is stability. Um, but like you said, it's clearly not about the money, but I don't necessarily think that it also means that he wants out. You know what I mean? I don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but it almost feels like to me that the Packers aren't listening.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
he said he wanted the GM fired.
Yeah, and it seems like the Packers aren't listening. It feels like the Packers are listening to everyone outside of the room rather than the person they should be focusing on. Because it almost seems like everybody's saying, "Oh, it's about the money. It's about the money." So the Packers are saying, "Okay, let's offer this guy more money." And then it's Aaron Rodgers. Almost feels like Aaron Rodgers saying, "I've been saying this whole time that it's not about the money." Like, you know what I mean? And you guys haven't done anything to kind of reconcile this relationship. Um, Other than try to throw more money at me. That's what it feels like. I don't know all the details of it. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers hasn't really said much. He said very little, but I
I
mean, the
mean, he
very
doesn't
little
really
that
say much.
exactly. But yeah, so I mean, the ball's really. I mean, it's in the Packers' court, but he has all the advantages. You know what I mean? Like he
He
has
can
the upper
retire.
hand. He can
He can
do
retire.
literally whatever he
He can sit
wants.
out. He can do
Yeah,
anything.
and so I just think that's really what it is. I don't think it's necessarily that he wants to go. I just think he's trying to tell the Packers, hey, like, you're just not listening to me. Like, I'm literally telling you what I want. And he might not be saying it to us, or he might be saying it in a way that only the Packers will understand. But clearly, nobody over there is listening to him. I think it's still possible that he stays, but if they don't do anything to kind of reconcile that relationship with him, if they don't do anything to make him happy, what he's kind of been saying from the beginning, then he's definitely out of there. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
there's no way there's no way you're staying if the team's just like, look, we'll give you more money, but aside from that, like you have
Yeah.
no
So
say in anything
so
else.
so we're 1 week away from training camp. Do you think he reports?
That's
And
tough.
if he doesn't report, do you think the Packers fine him for not reporting because they have the ability to?
I don't know. That's so tough because I've watched a lot of interviews with old players, his old receivers, like who know him, who know the guy very well, and they say that there's no way that he's not reporting. But when I just look at the situation, at least from the outside looking in, I don't know the guy personally, so yeah, I mean
Yeah.
they'd know better than I would. They'd have a better gauge on whether or not he's going to be able to show up or not be able to, but want to show up. So they definitely have a better way of gauging that. So when they say that they don't feel like there's any way he's missing, I want to believe them. But then when you look at the situation, it's like there's no way that he's showing up. Like there's
Yeah.
just no way that he's going to show up.
Yeah. I'm on the same page. It doesn't look like he's gonna show up. I mean, I know he wants to show up. Like obviously, because he already says he loves his coaches, he loves his teammates. Like he'll go to war with those guys. But it's literally everyone else. So everyone in the front office, specifically the GM. He already said he wanted. Well, he didn't say it himself, but there was rumors saying that they want him back, they need to fire the GM because they're not on good terms. And um, it doesn't seem like you said, the Packers have done enough to reconcile their relationship. So I'm interested to see if he doesn't report. Do they fine him for not reporting? Because I feel like if they fine him, that's only gonna make the relationship worse. Like you're only gonna get more on his bad side because, uh, like yeah, you offered him money, but and he said it's not about money, and I'm pretty sure he can dish out the money, but it's like you're not fixing what I'm telling you to fix, and then you're finding me for not, you know, showing up. It's just not gonna make anything better. Just put it like that. So I'm interested to see what happens there. I don't think he's gonna get traded. Like as much as talented as he is, I don't think teams are going to fetch up, or I think that's how you. Oh no, fess up. They're not gonna fess up a bunch of top picks in their future for a quarterback that's almost 40. Like I think he's like 37. Like that's a risky play. Like
Coming off coming
that's
off
a
an
win
MVP
now.
coming off MVP season, a win now team would definitely jump on
That's what I'm
him.
saying. That's a win now move for sure. Like you're basically risking your future for like at least one season, at
Yeah.
least. So that's risky. Like Denver seems like the most logical spot because they don't really seem to have a quarterback, and but again they just traded for Teddy Bridgewater. So like now does Teddy Bridgewater just like be his backup, and that's an expensive backup if you ask me. Um, but they have the defense to kind of compete. They have the playmakers to kind of compete as well. But yeah, I don't know. I think he's gonna stay a member of the Packers. Like before, I thought he was gonna get traded, but I think he's gonna end up staying with the Packers for at least this season, at least, and then he'll get traded if things are still not reconciled. But I think the Packers gonna end up pulling the trigger on firing their GM before they do trading Aaron Rodgers.
But yeah, and I mean that's really like one of the more confusing things about this whole scenario is the reports of like him wanting his GM fired and stuff. But I'm pretty sure I just saw him on somebody's podcast like a few months ago saying it has like it's nothing to do with wanting a guy to get fired. Like he doesn't want. I don't think he even wants a guy to get fired. But for me, I'm just asking like from this team has reached out to him, and like what have the conversations
Like
been like?
besides the players and coaches.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, what have the conversations been like from the owners, from the GM that he's
Yeah.
had this issue with? Has the GM tried to fix whatever issue it is? You know what I mean? Like, and that's for me what's so confusing about this. I'm just like in the sense that it shouldn't be that hard when you have a quarterback that's this talented. Like, it should not be this hard. Like, you know what I mean? Like, give the guy what he wants, especially if it's not more money. Because for most guys, it is money, and that almost is more times than not. That's giving more money is what's harder. And here the Packers are like, here, have all the money you want, and he's like, no, I don't. It's not that. So for me, I'm just like, the whole thing seems confusing.
Yeah, uh, for sure. And I feel like this is going to impact their season. And I'll explain it in my breakdown of that division specifically. But I don't think so. Like, should he return? I think he's going to be prepared. He's one of those quarterbacks. We talked about it in the interview with Dex because he mentioned Aaron Rodgers. So go check out the interview if you haven't already. But like he's very detail oriented. He does his homework. Like he's going to be ready should he return. But all the drama and stuff like that is going to play a factor in the team the team's camaraderie. You can say because come game day, like in these workouts, I think like OTAs and stuff like that, like he sat out, so his receivers sat out too. So now Jordan Love was practicing first team reps, but not with the first team playmakers. Like, and I think that although he might not be playing, let's say should he play, that's kind of setting him up almost. And then
Yeah.
if he doesn't play, it's like we didn't have these practice reps. And yes, practice. I'm not saying that they're not talented enough to still be able to perform, like practice, but like those practice reps, it's all about timing, and
Yeah, definitely.
I like their timing is going to be off come game day if he does return, especially with all this drama, and they don't have like this training camp or OTAs to kind of practice together. Like I don't know, I just feel like it's going to impact their performance somehow, some way.
Oh,
If he
definitely.
doesn't, if he does return, but this saga continues for as the season gets closer.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong at all. It's definitely gonna have an impact. Like, I mean, how big or small of an impact, who knows? But when you have that going on in the background during your season, I mean, it's not gonna be easy for really any team to kind of just look past that and try to go out and play, 17 weeks of football. It's not an easy task. But if I'm anybody on the Packers, uh, well, players and coaches wise, I'm pissed off because you know I feel like people that are have I mean obviously the owners and GMs have any and everything to do with the team. They put the team together for the most part. But when it comes to playing the games and being a part of the game, these people that have almost no part in the game at all in itself are kind of affecting your season. And so for me, like that just is bothersome. Like I'd be annoyed at this point. Like guys that have nothing to do with being on the field are kind of affecting the way our season's gonna go already. And it's really
Yep.
unfortunate.
Yeah, and to move on to something else that's going to be impacting uh your team performances on the field is COVID. COVID seems to be impacting everything. Like if you just look at the Olympics, they're even talking about like even canceling the event entirely because the COVID, like the athletes or like the positive COVID tests from the athletes are spiking. Like it's spiking everywhere, right? So with the NFL, they have, you know, there's been, rumors you can say, or news coming out of the vaccination rates amongst teams. So the NFL has already announced that they don't plan on canceling any games this season due to COVID. So that's that. So, but as of right now, two teams, two NFL teams remain under 50% vaccinated, less than 2 weeks from the start of training camp. As of Friday, Washington and Indianapolis had the two lowest COVID-19 vaccination rates amongst the 32 teams in the league. Pittsburgh, Miami, Carolina, and Denver have the highest vaccination rates. 13 teams have achieved at least 85%. And then uh, Bleacher Report comes out, and this is according to ESPN. Michael Irvin spoke on the Cowboys specifically, but you can pretty much say this about team in the league. But he says if you're not one of the teams at the 85% vaccinated threshold, are you really thinking about winning a championship? Somebody in that damn locker room should say, "Hey man, we're going to have a chance. Are you vaccinated?" This ain't the NBA. In this league, that could be that in this league that could be it for you. The right person misses 2 weeks, that's it. Which he's not wrong.
No, he's not wrong.
So my question to you is, should these teams at least be the 85% threshold? Like especially if you're one of the best teams going, and you have a championship mindset, or you have opportunity to win a championship.
Well, first I will say this. It's up to that team, specific whatever team we're talking about.
Yeah,
It's their prerogative whether or not they want to, have players be mandated to get a vaccine. But that's one. And two, like, I'm not gonna tell, I'm not gonna tell anybody to do anything. Like, I'm not gonna tell you to get vaccinated. I'm not gonna tell you to not get vaccinated. I think it should be up to the decision of that person or player, regardless.
hmm
Um, but I do 100% get where he's coming from. You know what I mean? Like, if you want to win a Super Bowl, if you think your team has a shot at making a deep playoff run, this, that, and the third, if you're not vaccinated, then you better be following every protocol to the best of your ability. Because if you aren't, and you're kind of being, your self-awareness is low, you really don't care about the fact that you're not vaccinated and you're kind of doing whatever, then you know you really deserve whatever's coming to you. And I don't mean that in the worst way possible. Obviously I don't mean, in a bad way.
Yeah,
But if you're gonna miss 2 weeks and that's gonna affect your team, that's your fault. You know what I mean? And you basically, what I'm saying is, you gotta take the consequences that come with not being vaccinated.
yeah, for sure.
You have to understand that. So, get vaccinated, don't get vaccinated, but you gotta take those consequences that come with your decision. And if you choose not to get vaccinated, then make sure that you're following the protocols to the best of your ability, and that's period.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm not saying that it's mandated. I think what they're doing is it is optional, as it is with anybody else, but they're kind of encouraging the players to get the vaccination. Uh, so he's basically saying that people in the locker room, if you know you have an opportunity to win a championship, you should be encouraging your teammates that aren't vaccinated to get vaccinated and to at least meet the 85% threshold. And I think he isn't wrong in saying that if you're not at least the 85 threshold, like, are you really about winning the championship? Because that you're more likely to have positive tests and players missing 2 weeks. Like when he said, the if if the right person misses 2 weeks, that could be your season. Like, just imagine you're in the playoffs and someone like a Tom Brady goes down and has to miss 2 weeks due to COVID. Like, I'm not wishing bad on Tom Brady, but this is just a hypothetical. It's like you're already in the playoffs and it's win or go home situation every single week. So let's say your leader goes down, your backup is Kyle Trask, the rookie. Like, now he has to kind of for 2 weeks he has to come up with 2 wins before Brady could even come back. Like, that could be your season right there, or it could be the end of the season where you're fighting for a playoff spot or a wild card spot, just playoff spot in general, and the right player can go down, and that could be your season right there. Like, you missed your opportunity window to even make the playoffs and compete for a championship. This plays a huge factor, and I'm not saying go get the vaccination. Like, it's not mandated. The NFL even has guidelines, like travel guidelines for players that are vaccinated and aren't vaccinated. Like, if you're vaccinated, I think you're basically free to do whatever you want. Like, it's normal. But if you're not vaccinated, you can't leave the hotel. You can't communicate with anyone or come in contact with anyone that's not a part of the team. And especially during like practice and stuff like that. Like, basically, you're isolated. You could have a Lou Will situation or Lemon Pepper Lou going to the strip club, get some wings, and next thing you know, you gotta isolate because not just because you're positive, but it could result in a positive test. But now you just expose yourself and for 2 weeks, and that could be your season right there too. Like, there's a lot of factors, and
Nah,
I think he's not wrong here.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, he's definitely not. I just think, like, if you're not gonna get vaccinated, just be responsible. And that's really the biggest end of it.
Yeah,
Like, you know what I mean? Like, for whatever reason you believe that you don't want to get the vaccine, that's fine. Like, you're entitled to believe whatever you want to believe or have whatever opinion, but it's just like, just be responsible, because at that moment, that's when, for me, it becomes an issue. I don't think it's necessarily like, oh, hey, you're not getting vaccinated, you're not taking this seriously enough. Nah, because there could be a personal reason why he's not getting vaccinated.
yeah,
But I do know that the minute I see you not being responsible is the minute, you know, I realize that you're not taking it seriously. And obviously, what I mean, this is me speaking as if I'm looking from the point of view of an NFL player. You know what I mean? Like, if I see you as my teammate and I know you're not vaccinated and you're not being responsible, that's when, for me, I'm like, okay, you're definitely not taking this seriously. I don't even want to play with you anymore, because you don't care about our opportunity to kind of, do something special this year. And so that for me is when it becomes a problem. But I do get where he's coming from 100%.
I guess from a different perspective, you can see why people wouldn't get, like, there's religious reasons why people wouldn't get the vaccination. And there's other reasons. I'm not saying like you have to get the vaccination. I was against getting the vaccination at first. Like, I wasn't with getting the vaccination. The only reason why I got the vaccination was because I wanted to go to the Yankee game, and it was easier for me to get the vaccination than to continuously have to get tested to prove that I was negative. So if I just wanted to do it so I could have the free will to do whatever I wanted, but should it not be mandated, basically, I wouldn't have got it. So and that's why I'm not against people not getting it, but you encourage people to get it because I obviously want to get back to normal or as close to normal as you possibly can get, even though it's not going to ever be the same. But it is what it is. I mean, like you mentioned, it's all ultimately it's up to the specific teams that those players are on, but at the end of the day, it comes down to the player and their individual decision on whether to get it or not. I think a lot of the big stars will get it, but there will be a few sprinkled in that won't. And I think we'll be under better circumstances this season than we were last season with COVID, just because they kind of had an off season to prepare and figure some stuff out. But also, there's a vaccination now, whereas there wasn't one before. So that's that. But to move on to our last news of the NFL, Eli and Peyton Manning are to
The best
headline
news.
an alternate Monday Night Football broadcast over the next 3 seasons on ESPN2 for 10 games in each of the next 3 seasons, and will include current and former NFL players and celebrities joining the Manning brothers on the broadcast. So, my question to you is: are you tuning into ESPN and the typical broadcast team, or with I think it's Bob Grease, Louis Riddick, and whomever, I think Stan Levy, or are you tuning into ESPN2 with the Manning brothers?
Look, I'm gonna answer your question like this. I'm gonna need Eli and Peyton to host every Monday night football game on ESPN. I don't need them on ESPN too. I need them to do not just 10 games a season. I need them for every Monday night football game for the rest of whenever. I think that is great TV. I think Peyton and Eli are two of the most hilarious players in football, and most of the time is without even trying. Um, and so honestly, I mean, just when you see them together in commercials, when you see them together on TV, kind of doing interviews, like just their personalities, the way they are together. Obviously, them being brothers, and so like just the way they are together, like the fun shit they do, the funny shit they say. Like it's never like a dull moment. I feel like when they're together, or even when they're just themselves with somebody else. So them hosting a Monday night football game, on top of the fact that I think it will be complete jokes, and also just two legendary quarterbacks, and yes, Eli Manning is a legend. Two legendary quarterbacks, just talking football. Breaking down the games and color commentating is amazing. I mean, we've seen Tony Romo do it. I'm not a big Tony Romo fan. Obviously, he's a Dallas Cowboy. But he's a really good color commentator. He knows what the fuck he's talking about. He literally sometimes calls out plays before they happen, and that's dope as shit to see. So, I can only just imagine like seeing Eli Manning, a two-time Super Bowl champion, Peyton Manning, one of the obviously also a Super Bowl champion, but one of the greatest, minds the game has ever seen. Uh, pun intended, because he got a big ass head. But yeah, I just think in general it's gonna be great. It's good TV, so I'm excited for it. I'm gonna definitely be tuning into ESPN2,
Oh yeah,
100%.
yeah, I'm definitely tuning into ESPN2. I'm not saying the commentary team for Monday Night Football is trash,
No, it's not.
because I do think it was better this past season than it was like the years before. Uh, but I've I've been wanting ESPN has, but I've been wanting to see Payne in the booth for some since he's retired, and I think they try to get him for Monday Night Football
Peyton in the
before,
booth.
and they try to get him before to do Monday Night Football, and it just wasn't it.
The way he said
But
that was like he's about to drop a mixtape.
he is, but it's the fact that he ultimately said no, or they just didn't get him at the time, and then now they get him, but not just him, they get him with Eli, is amazing. Like you mentioned, we've seen what they can do in commercials and their skits and things of that nature. Like they're both funny in like their individual rights. I think Eli's funnier because I just feel like he's more low key with his jokes, and I think with this opportunity we'll see more of his fun side, because everyone just looks at Eli and looks at his bland face that he gives on the football field
Yeah.
rather than his personality. And a lot of his former teammates say that he's one of the funniest guys on the team, just because of what he does. Like he likes to pull pranks on people and
Yeah.
things of that nature. So
Well,
this,
and
this is gonna be interesting.
Dev, and not to mention, you did say it will include, former NFL players, which I think is dope. Seeing maybe other legends join them, but also celebrities. Like you said, that's something I didn't know that they were gonna, have other people on with them at times as well. But that's amazing. Like imagine watching a Monday night football game getting commentated by Eli Manning, Peyton Manning, and then you just randomly throwing like fucking Snoop Dogg, who's been commentating everything recently.
Or
Like
no, Marshawn Lynch. Marshawn
or
Lynch.
Marshawn Lynch. Like it's just pure comedy, man. That would be amazing. I'd love to see either of
Yeah.
those guys with Eli and Peyton. So I mean,
So
it's
so
just
yeah,
gonna.
They said this is going to be from like undisclosed location, so it's not going to be at the stadium. But I'm viewing it as it's going to be like a watch party. So
Yeah,
they're gonna be watching it in like you gotta say a man cave, and they're gonna be breaking down the game, commentating obviously, but they're gonna be cracking jokes and having side conversations as well.
yeah,
And like without getting into like the celebrities and the other legends, like you mentioned, like these two guys are one of the smartest players that played the game ever. And Peyton has done amazing things with his Peyton Place on ESPN Plus. Uh, for those that have watched it, and in terms of that's almost like the with like Daniel Cormier and Kobe with
detail. Yeah,
the detail they break things down, and even Payton does detail for football for ESPN. So like just viewing what he's done with ESPN thus far, and then now seeing this opportunity, and then pairing him with his brother, which it's just gonna be fucking comedy plus football intel is amazing. And I'm definitely gonna be tuning in. It just sucks that it's only gonna be for 10 games.
yeah,
Um, but maybe it gets extended, or maybe the Manning brothers just wanted some freedom and to kind of just not be kind of tied down for the entire
yeah.
season.
No, and it makes sense. But I mean, you also spoke about it being at a remote location, not at the stadium. I kind of pictured when I read that. I kind of pictured it being kind of like a NBA on TNT almost. When you got Chuck and Shaq and those guys. Um, kind of always. I mean, those guys are hilarious. So it'll almost. I feel like it'll probably almost be like that, where they're in a separate location, except you know. Whereas they don't commentate during the game, these guys will. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, and that's the perfect example. Like they break down film, they talk
yeah,
NBA, and it's great to see their perspective of what's going on in the NBA. But again, they bring the comedy, and that's
yeah,
why everyone loves them, because it almost seems like a family, whereas this is really actually a family. So like
yeah,
it
yeah.
brings additional drama to it, because you already know they're gonna take shots at each other, and a lot of it's gonna be because of their childhood. So and we're gonna get to learn more about these individual guys just from this mega cast, and I'm excited for it. It's another reason why I'm excited for the season to come. And Eli, he's got his gig with the Giants. Like he's now in like the business side of things. He's in marketing. So now he's got his side gig with ESPN, and he's got this job with the Giants. And with him coming up with his Fan Fest, he came up with Fan Fest, and I'm going. I told you to go.
Yeah,
You told me you let me know. But
yeah.
Eli said he's gonna be there. So
Ultimate.
maybe we see him and we're like, yo, come through balls deep, interview.
Yo, guy's the ultimate. That guy's the ultimate bag chaser, yo. But nah, I mean, I definitely wanted to go to the Fan Fest. I'm still gonna try to go. It's more so on scheduling with work.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping I could go to that for sure. But yeah, nah, I'm fucking excited for that ESPN broadcast.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting. I can't wait. Can't wait. I think the first one might be week one, so we'll see. Um, but to shift over to the last sport that we're going to be covering, I know this episode is running a little long, but we have a lot to say, and that's good. We missed a week, so we kind of have time to make up. But with the NBA, before we get into the NBA finals, there's it seems like all the coaching vacancies have been filled. So I'm gonna just run through the list. So we have Nate McMillan with the Hawks. He's moving from interim to that full time role. And then we have I might butcher his name, but Ime Udoka. He's now the head coach of the Celtics, coming over from the Nets. Jason Kidd with the Mavericks, coming over from the Lakers. Rick Carlisle, he's now the head coach of the Pacers. Jamal Mosley is now the head coach of the Magic. Chauncey Billups is now the head coach of the Trailblazers. Wes Unseld Jr. is now the head coach of the Wizards. And Willie Green is now the head coach of the Pelicans. So of these hires, like, did one of these surprise you more than others? And which one do you think is probably the best pairing?
Um, so just looking at it off the top, so I do want to say this. It's more funny than anything, I guess, or it might be funny. Uh, I didn't know Jason Kidd was black. I had no idea.
Yeah, he is.
I had no idea. And it's so random, but I saw a thing the other day about all the new coach hires, and they were talking about they were noting the fact that a majority of them, almost all of them, were African American or black hires, which is great. But then I saw Jason Kidd's face there, and I was like, Jason Kidd, like Jason Kidd's black. And when I went to the comments, everybody's like, since when is Jason Kidd black? And that was just funny to me. I'm sorry, but I think the
He's
one,
the light skinned brother,
yeah,
or
now
white skin,
it was just
depending
funny.
on who you're talking to.
Yeah, apparently his dad is African American and his
Yeah.
mother is Irish American. So that's pretty cool. Um, but yeah, but with that being said, um, not necessarily surprised about any of these, but I'm kind of excited for the Chauncey Billups hire. This is really the first worst for this is the first opportunity we're getting to see him in a head coaching role like this for a good team, a Trailblazers team, like a solid team. They get to the playoffs every year. Obviously they haven't been capable of making a deep run, but I'm really just more so curious to see how he's able to do in his first stint as a head coach because I mean we've seen plenty of players kind of transition from head coaches. Like, I mean, Jason Kidd, who I just spoke about, who's on this list, he's already had coaching opportunities. You know what I mean? Like, this isn't brand new to him. But Chauncey Billups, I'm just curious to see how it plays out for him, because he's one of those players that, I mean, not that Chauncey Billups was a scrub, because by no means Chauncey Billups was a scrub, but it almost seems like it's those players that it's never really the star players that come out and coach a team to a title. Like, you know what I mean? It's always those
Yeah.
dudes who used to be players who are on the bench that somehow come out and they just know everything about the game. And it's like, and I'm not saying Chauncey Billups that guy because Chauncey Billups is talented, but I'm just curious because he's almost in that middle of the road where he wasn't an amazing player, but he wasn't a scrub. So I'm just curious to see how his basketball IQ transitions over to being a coach, how he's able to lead a team with, especially an alpha like, Damian Lillard, who,
I
I mean,
I see
obviously,
similar play styles.
exactly. And that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't even know he's going to be there still or not. We don't know that. But in the sense that, like, Dame's a dog. He's a great player. Like, it's usually harder for a young guy like Chauncey Billups to come in and coach a young squad or a young player like a Damian Lillard because it's like, what are you going to bring to me? What are you going to bring to the table? What can you offer me that, is going to help me better myself, is going to help better this team that we're not already doing? Especially when you're a young guy like that. I feel like when you're young, when you're a younger coach, like Chauncey Billups is so early in his coaching, career, it's like, what do you have to offer? You know what I mean? It's usually the younger guys that are coaches that have more to prove, and so I'm just excited to see how Chauncey Billups really can coach that Trailblazers team, even more so if Dame ends up leaving. You know what I mean? Just seeing how he kind of
Yeah.
handles that. So I'm excited for that one because he's kind
Um.
of in a limbo there.
So it's funny that you mentioned Chauncey Billups because Chauncey, I see a lot of similarities in his game and Damian Lillard's game. Like they live for the big shot. Obviously, Chauncey Billups' nickname was Mr. Big Shot. Um, I'm interested to see how that pans out as well. But what's interesting on why you bring it up is because the the coaching hire that I think most excited to see is the Jason Kidd hire with the Mavericks because he also has a similar play style to Luca.
Yep.
Like Rick Carlisle even said like he was hoping that Jason Kidd got the job when he left because he sees a lot of similarities in Luca as he did in Jason Kidd when he coached him. But also what makes it interesting is because those two hires had the most controversy when they were hired. A lot of it stemmed from their past, in terms of like their like past allegations, whether it be like off the court. So A lot of that had to do with it. I think the Trailblazers didn't help Chauncey because in his press conference, they kind of try to avoid all the questions. Someone asked a question, and they basically like said next question and didn't even allow Chauncey to speak on it. Although Chauncey's already came out publicly and spoke on the situation, uh, but it just does it leaves the fans and all that, like, it gives them a bad taste in their mouth. Pause. But it just doesn't seem right. But it's just interesting that the two jobs or two hires that had the most controversy are the ones that were most interesting in. And I'll explain. So Jason Kidd in his past stints with the Nets and the Bucks, he's done a good job in terms of building relationships with his players and developing players, but he hasn't done so well with the X's and the O's, like his plays. So I'm interested to see if he learned from those past stints, and also with his stints as an assistant with the Lakers, if he learned then what he didn't know prior with his other two gigs. So I'm interested in that. And there's talks where he's talking about bringing over a really like a amazing offensive minded assistant coach and Igor Koskov, and he was the former head coach of the Suns when Luka was drafted, right? And but the reason why this is interesting is because I've been on record saying that that DeAndre Ayton is a bad player, and yeah, they needed a center, but they were also looking for a point guard at the time. And Igor, he's coached Luka overseas, and they've won championships overseas. Like he's familiar with him. He knows his play style. And I was saying, like, if anyone knows the capabilities of Luka, it would have been him because he's coached them. And I think he was pounding the table for him. And they ultimately went with DeAndre, and that kind of was the start of the relationship dying down because I think he ended up getting fired like mid-season that season. But like to bring him as an assistant under Jason Kidd to help him with the X's and O's in terms of offense and building the offense around Luka, because I think Luka is going to listen to Kidd just because of the similarities and his respect as a former player. But to get Igor there to help him with the X's and O's, one, and two, to have another coach that he's familiar with, I think that will definitely help them as in terms of performance on the court. But also, I think Jason Kidd is going to open up the opportunities to recruit. I think he's going to be a better recruiter than Rick Carlisle was in Dallas. I think a lot more players are going to be willing to go to Dallas because they want to play for Jason Kidd. And now that you have Jason Kidd there, Luka's there. Like people want to play with Luka, except Porzingis, because Porzingis. A lot of people say he's jealous of him, or like and things of that nature. But just I feel like if they do get Igor to be an assistant, I think that's a perfect opportunity for success for Luka, but also a sign of improvement from the Mavericks itself
Yeah.
as an organization.
And that's crazy because that's not something that I knew was a possibility. I didn't know that was something that the Mavs were inquiring about happening. But
Yeah.
that's really huge. Because like you said, a guy like Jason Kidd who probably has a lot more capabilities in terms of recruiting players. Because people definitely want to play for Jason Kidd. Like Jason Kidd is one of the best point guards ever. Like an amazing player, Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
Like we all know that. But having a guy that's so close to Luka, I mean, winning a championship with a guy like the relationship has to be really solid. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, so having a guy with such a good, close relationship with Luka from the jump start like that, who also can help Jason Kidd with the X and O's, like you said. I mean, that's amazing. That sounds great, and I'd love. I mean, honestly, that's not something that I was aware of, but it's something that I hope to see happen now at this point.
Yeah, and then the one that I'm surprised about the most, I'm not saying that it's a bad hire, but the one that I didn't see coming was Willie Green going to the Pelicans. And it's not a done deal yet. I think they're in talks, but it's pretty close. Like
Yeah.
I think once the Suns or when the season's over, it'll become official. But I think that's the one that's interesting the most because I didn't really see him as a head coaching hire. I'm not saying, but a lot of people like Doc Rivers have came out and said that they think he's capable of doing well over there. But I think that was probably his only interview, like only team that he's interviewed with, and he is doing well. But a lot of Suns players have came out and said that he's been well. He's been a really good coach, and obviously their championship push with going to the finals. So I'm interested to see what he does over there, especially with a young squad that has Zion. Currently, they have Lonzo. I don't know, but it doesn't look like he's going to return. But they have Brandon Ingram. So just having a young squad with a young coach like Willie Green, who's a former player, I'm interested to see how that works out. Because we already know how Nate McMillan's what he's gonna do with the Hawks. Like it's gonna carry over to next season. Ime, I'm excited to see what he does over there too, because he has a relationship with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum from his team from coaching Team USA, but also he's a different kind of the way they're making it seem, he's a different kind of coach than Brad Stevens was. He's more hard nosed. So I'm interested to see how that pans out. Don't know much about Wes Unseld Jr., but that came for a loop because I figured the Wizards they might have went for like a Sam Cassell, who's been an assistant for a long time, former player, well respected, especially with Beal and Westbrook on like there for now. And Rick Carlisle, I mean, it came to a surprise that he signed with the Pacers instead of waiting because I figured the Bucks opportunity might arise after the playoffs. But I still think it's a good hire. And I did say the only way I felt like Budenholzer was going to keep his job is if they won the NBA Finals,
It's looking like
and
it.
it's looking like they might win it. So this is my transition.
It's looking like they might right now.
Yep, this is my transition to the NBA Finals and our last topic of the day. So it's the series is 3-2, right? As of our recording, it's 3-2.
Yeah, the game is tonight,
Um,
so you guys won't see this until
tomorrow.
well, yeah. They might have won already. They might have. They might not. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? It might be over or it might be going to game 7. But like the Suns seem to be crumbling under pressure. They blew the last 2 games
Hmm.
that they should have won. A lot of it
One
seems
could
to be put
argue.
on Chris Paul. Yeah, one can argue, but I think they should have definitely won game 4 because they had like they had a big lead in game 4 and they kind of blew it. A lot of the blame seems to be going on Chris Paul, as it should, because he's turned within this series. He's turned the ball over more than he did throughout the whole playoff push, and everyone seemed to think that he, got past the choking phase because he couldn't get to the NBA Finals, and there was no 3-1 lead to blow. But now he's in the finals. He had a good game 1, and since then it's went to shit. And they were up 2-0, and now it's 3-2. They lost 3 in a row. So my question to you is like, are well, we know the Suns are coming under pressure, but will they come out and win game game 6? And if the Bucks win the NBA Finals, is it good for the NBA?
So I will say this. I think it's over after tonight. I think it's over after tonight. I think the Bucks will win it. They clinch the title at home. Um, and
Storybook ending.
yeah, nah. I mean, it's hard. It's hard to see any. It's hard to kind of picture anything else at this moment. Just the way that the Bucks. I mean, we were both saying it coming into the finals. Like the Suns look like the best team. Throughout this whole playoffs, they look the most complete. They look the healthiest. And they're just kind of cracking under pressure finally. And I mean, it's not even necessarily everybody. I mean, they haven't all really played horribly. And it really kind of does fall on Chris Paul because I mean, Devin Booker's played well. DeAndre Ayton's played well. You can say that maybe Cameron Payne's game um, hasn't been at the level in the finals that it was in the conference finals, that it wasn't,
Yep.
it hasn't been at that same level. So I will put a little blame on him as well. So there's a few guys, but the big one is Chris Paul. He's the leader of that team. He's the one that brought all that confidence to those guys. He's the one that, you know, gave these guys, you know, not the ability. They always had the ability. He gave them the
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 confidence.
confidence in themselves. He gave them, the IQ, a different way to look at the game. Like, but now in this moment when they really need that leader, he's kind of, what I mean, he's like the Avatar. They needed him most, and he vanished. Like, I mean, he just, he just, where is he? Like, and that's the issue that everybody's always had with Chris Paul. That's, the reason that it's taken him this long to get to a finals. He's been cracking under pressure for years and years. Obviously, his best chance, everybody knows his best chance to get a title was that year with Houston. He ended up getting hurt. Like, I get that. But now that he's here, again, like, he's cracking under pressure, and it's hard for me to see any other outcome than the Bucks clinching at home, because, and it's not even just about the Suns right now. The Bucks are clicking on all cylinders. Like, everybody was talking about, I mean, we mentioned it, few episodes ago. I'm pretty sure the last time we talked about the NBA, we mentioned it. I mentioned how Harv, who we had on our NBA special before the season, Harvey, shout out to Harvey, go stream his music. He said, you know, the Bucks are gonna go only as far as Chris Middleton to take them, and I don't think that necessarily means that he's the best player on the team, because he's not. But
He's the closer.
when he's on, they're on, because Giannis is guaranteed. Like, he's on. Like, he's not off. I don't feel like, I can't remember a game this, playoffs that he wasn't on. Um, and so that's why it always does come down to Chris Middleton, because, like, now that Giannis is always doing his job, we need you to do yours. And now not only is he hitting while Giannis is hitting, but Drew Holiday's also hitting. And that's become very dangerous.
And when he's not hitting offensively, he's still able to contribute defensively.
100% defensively. And I mean, it's not even just those three. I mean, Connaughton, 3 after 3. Like, it's really tough to beat a team that's just clicking on all cylinders. And not only are clicking on all cylinders, they have the perfect mindset. And it's not even just necessarily like, everybody kind of, and I'm not, everybody as of late, especially, it's like, job's not finished, job's not finished, job's not finished. Everybody's kind of like adopting that Kobe saying job's not finished. But with the Bucks, it's not even necessarily like job's not finished. It's like, with the Bucks, it's more so like living in the moment. Like, they understand the job's not finished, but they also understand, like, they understand their ability to celebrate, but not allow themselves. Like, Giannis said it perfectly. We're not getting too high. We're not getting too low. Like, we're able to celebrate, but still realize we're not done. And I feel like that's the perfect mindset, in the sense that, like, it's not even just jobs not finished. Like, the sense that, like, they can taste it is, like, making them hungrier for it. And, like, it's just crazy to see, like, what Giannis has kind of come into as a player. Not even just in his skill wise. Obviously, like, everybody was talking shit about him, saying he needs a better bag and this
He
and
does.
that, but he does. You're not wrong. But, like, just the mindset alone is, like,
He's
carrying.
still dominant.
No, a dominant, and the mindset alone is carrying him. Because I'm not saying that he just automatically, has a bag this series, but his game has been elevated in this series alone. He's way better in this series than he was even just last series. Like, he's taking more shots from outside the perimeter, like, not 3-pointers, but I saw him take a mid-range J the other day. He just pulled it, splashed it. He's taking fucking turnaround faders, like, splashing them. I'm just like,
and he's not phased at the fact that he's airballing free throws.
no, not at all.
At the fact that like, the fans are doing a countdown on how long he takes to shoot a free throw.
Nope.
And the funny thing is, Chris Paul even said it. Like, the Suns need to do better in terms of defensive rebounds, but especially when Giannis is shooting free throw. Giannis gets to the line so often and so frequently. He even said it is like everyone in the arena is expecting him to miss, even himself.
Yeah.
So that's why the Bucks are so ready to get them the rebounds, especially off the free throws. So it almost seems like Giannis going to the free throw line. If he hits 2, it's a surprise, but you're expecting him to at least hit 1.
Yeah.
It's either 1 or none. But if he hits 2, that's amazing.
Hey, I mean, last game,
he's not phased out it.
Not at all. In last game, when I was watching last game, there was 2 times where he missed a free throw and got his own rebound. That's 4 points.
And it was, I think,
that's opportunity for more than 4.
It was at the end of the game too when the Suns really needed the rebound from him shooting the free throw. He missed the second free throw, and they tipped it up, and it came back to him, and he smacked it back.
Yep,
And I think
that was one of them.
Drew Holiday ended up getting it, and basically that was it. That was game over. So the fact that mentally he seems focused, I think that's good. I mean, there was a time he was talking to the press. I forget his words exactly, so I'm gonna paraphrase here. But they were asking him, I think, about his 40-point game or his block or whatever, and if he had the opportunity to watch it, he said no. Like I'm watching the next game. He was talking. He had a long story where he said basically he doesn't look in the past, he doesn't look in the future. He just lives in the moment. Because and that shows like his humility. Like if you go into
I
the game,
love that quote.
if you go into the game expecting to get 40 points, this that, like, and you don't get it, you're setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah,
Like, and he said that's like your pride talking. And then if you look in the past saying, oh, I just dropped 40, that's like
that's your ego.
he said that's your ego because he says in the past every time I would do that I would have a shitty game to follow. So the
Yeah,
reason why he lives in the moment is so that he doesn't think about that and he can continuously be be great, and it's showing. And I loved Giannis as a player before, especially because he's fucking hilarious. Um, but I think people are getting to know him more now and more in depth, and he's showing why he's great, like why he's one of the greats. Now, I'm not saying all time, but eventually he will go down all time as a great.
yeah,
But he's one of the greats, one of the elites in the league right now. And although he doesn't have the bag that he should still go get himself a bag because he could be even greater. Like this is his moment. And
the,
before Kobe
yeah,
passed, he gave him basically a goal to be MVP. He became MVP, and he goes, "Okay, I got that. What's next?" And he told him a championship. This is his time.
yeah.
This
No,
is his time
it
to
is.
shine and win that championship.
And I said this to somebody the other day because I was having a conversation with our friend Ed, and he was saying how badly he wants Devin Booker to win one. You know, be legendary, and I get
As
that.
do I.
And I'd love to see Devin Booker win one. Um,
And
but
he's played like he
And
deserves one.
everybody wants Chris Paul to win one, and like I get it, but you know, Devin Booker has more time. Chris Paul doesn't have more time as much time, but for me, uh,
No, this is it for him.
that's what I'm saying. For me, like, not that I necessarily don't care, but I genuinely it doesn't bother me whether Chris Paul wins it or not. I'd rather see the Suns win it because I want to see Devin Booker win it. But regardless, Devin Booker is already legendary. Period. Like, you don't have to win this title to have proved that you did what Kobe said to do. Be legendary. He already proved it. Like, at this point, he's gotten there. Winning a title has nothing to do with being legendary. He's already accomplished that. A title would be amazing, 100%. But Giannis, and not even just because Kobe said, like, Giannis, just for me, like, I thought the Suns were gonna win this, but I want the Bucks to win. I've wanted the Bucks to win, just solely off the fact that, like, the resume that Giannis already carries after what 8 years, and this is eighth year in the league. This is eighth year in the league. Guys got two MVPs, and they were back to back. He got a Defensive Player of the Year. He's a five-time All-Star with the All-Star Game MVP this year, where he also went perfect in the game. He's NBA's Most Improved Player in 2017. He has 5 All NBA selections, 3 of those being first team, 2 of those being second team, 4 All Defensive selections, 3 of those being first team, 1 of those being second team, all rookie second team. Like, to add a finals, more than likely a finals MVP to that. Like,
So my question to you: if he wins, is he considered top 20 all time? If he were to retire after winning the championship, hypothetically,
hypothetically, no. So I will say this: hypothetically speaking, if he retired after winning this title right now, he is not top 20. Oof, that's tough. Probably. He's probably top 20. Maybe. That's tough.
I tried to say
Maybe.
top 10. Top 10 is
That's
a
tough.
no.
Top 10's a no. Top 20, maybe. Hypothetically speaking, if he retired after this year, if he won it, maybe. But I will say this.
Is that
He
resume too?
hypothetically speaking, if he retired after this year, he's definitely a first ballot Hall of Famer. because he's already got the resume. He's already got all the accolades. He's got over 10,000 points. I'm pretty sure he's over 5,000 rebounds already. He's got over 3,000 assists. I'm pretty sure he has an insane amount of blocks. I forgot what it was. I just looked at it a few days ago. Like, he has an insane amount of blocks. Like, he's already got the numbers for a first ballot Hall of Famer, and he has the accolades to go with it. Like, if he retired after this year, if he won a title, he's already first ballot Hall of Famer, and that's why I want to see him win it so bad. And because of that resume, because of who he is, because of how he carries himself, like,
yeah.
And he said it. I don't know if you watched the NBA, their conferences with their media days with the Suns and the Bucks. It was just yesterday morning. They had their media day, and one of the reporters asked Giannis a question, some question in the form of like wanting to be like the most liked player or something like that. Like how it was some form of a question that had to do with being a liked player. And he said, I don't care about being the most liked guy. He's like, I don't care about being anybody's favorite player. I don't care about being the most liked guy. I don't care about like he's like I could be the least liked guy in the entire NBA. He's like, as long as I'm doing what I need to do every day to help my team win. And that's exactly what you want from the star player.
Yeah. So I think I'm on board with you, bro. Like I wanted this. I said the Suns in 6. I thought the Suns were gonna do it. I really do. Like there's part of me that has hope that the Suns will win Game 6 and push it to Game 7, just because I would like for this series to go to 7
I'd love to
games.
see a 7-game series.
But it almost seems like the Bucks are getting better with each game, and the Suns are getting worse with each game. Like there's like Devin Booker's been that consistent for the Suns. Ayton's been there too. But it's the inconsistency of Chris Paul. You don't know which Chris Paul you're going to get. It's almost like what people think of when they think of Chris Middleton. They said you're either gonna get Chris Bryant or Chris Jordan, or you're gonna end up getting Chris Kuzma. And you don't know which Chris Middleton you're gonna get on any given night. You might get Prime MJ, you might get Kyle Kuzma. You don't know. Right now, as of late, he's been playing like Prime MJ, which is why they've been winning. But who's to say, you know, his Kyle Kuzma side don't come out in Game 6 and they lose. But it's almost that's what I'm saying. It's like that. What we think of Chris Middleton is what's going on with Chris Paul. There might be more to it with Chris Paul. He might be hurt. We don't know. But we don't know what Chris Paul we're getting. We don't know if he's going to be the Chris Paul we've seen coming into the NBA Finals or Game 1, or what we've been seeing in the past couple of games. But in reality, even if he's injured or not, I just think the Bucks figured out a way to stop the Suns, and that's not like they know Booker's been their best player, but he can't beat you by himself. And stopping Chris Paul means you're stopping almost the rest of the team, because he's the facilitator. He's what's getting everyone else involved, and and that's why I think they just found the solution to winning the NBA Finals. And I as much as I want this game to go to 7 games, I'm kind of with you on the Bucks having the storybook ending and finishing it in 6. And I think it would be perfect for the Bucks and Giannis's legacy in itself. But I think it's perfect for the NBA because the Bucks are a small market team. Giannis is one of the best players in the league. He could have had the opportunity to kind of force his way out and go to a bigger market, or even kind of force the Bucks' hand to get a super team. He forced them to make moves, but he didn't tell them I want a super team. And he ultimately won with the squad that he pretty much had. They just went out and traded literally their entire future for Drew Holiday. And Drew Holiday is an amazing player, but he's not a top 20 player in the league. And like people were questioning, like, oh, even us. I think we said on the podcast, like, it was a great acquisition, but it was a bad move to trade all those assets for Drew Holiday, especially when they didn't get Bogdanovich. I think right now Bogdanovich is kind of shooting like.
Oh yeah, I'm mad if I'm him.
He's shooting himself. He pretty much shot himself in the foot, because he could have been in the NBA Finals. And the funny thing is, he played them in the Eastern Conference Finals, but but he's pretty much shooting himself like, damn, I could have got myself a championship. I could have played a bigger role, and I think it would have been an easier road to the finals if they had Bogdanovich.
Yeah.
But the fact that they didn't, I think it's great for the NBA because now it's going to it should help the smaller market teams moving forward, and also almost say like you don't need a super team to win. And people are talking about the 2020 Lakers being a super team. That wasn't a super team. AD and LeBron were just so dominant on the road to the finals that it made it seem like a super team. But you need two stars. You can say you need two stars, and the reason why I say that Chris Middleton, he might not be a superstar,
But he's a star.
he's a star. But right as of right now, he's playing like a super. He's playing out of his mind. He's playing like a superstar, and that's what's kind of allowed the Bucks to make that jump, that make that leap to where they needed to be. So he's a star, but the fact that he's playing like a superstar is contributing to the Bucks' success because he's essentially their closer. And a big reason why a lot of the NBA players are chiming in, like CJ McCollum was basically saying, like, if the Bucks win, how many Finals MVP votes does Chris Middleton have? He then followed it up because Gobert said that people are trying to discredit Giannis and stuff like that. He even said, like, he followed it up and said Giannis is Finals MVP. Like, he's not doubting that, but Chris is playing so well, he's just curious on how much Finals MVP votes would he get. So it's to that standard. It's like he's playing really well to the point where like you can say like he could arguably, depending on who you talk to, be Finals MVP. I don't think so. I think there's no question it's Giannis, but there's a conversation to be had for Chris Middleton.
No, I mean, there's definitely it's not like he's playing like a scrub, and regardless of whether or not it's obvious, you still have to have the conversation because, dude,
exactly.
If it wasn't for the way Giannis is playing, Chris Middleton would have a legit case for the Finals MVP. So there's definitely a conversation to be had, although I think it's a very quick one. But to speak a little bit on Jrue Holiday, I saw somebody say that he's already worth everything they gave up. He was solely based off the steal he made in Game 5. He was already worth everything they gave up for him. I agree
the steal
with
in the alley. That was perfect.
100%. And also, I just think the fact that to speak a little bit about the Finals MVP thing, I definitely think there's a conversation to be had. And like I said, it's a quick one. I think really the big difference between the two isn't even necessarily how well they're playing, because I think they're both playing at a high level, an amazingly high level. Although I do think Giannis is just a step above. I think what really separates him, though, is the leadership and the mentality of that team currently is coming from Giannis. And so that's what I think the biggest difference is in that MVP conversation is without the mentality that Giannis has kind of garnered over all these losses in the playoffs the past few years. Without that, this team isn't as good as they look right now. Because I mean, if you haven't watched our Dex Lawson, interview yet, but we spoke a lot about confidence in that episode. And that's something that Giannis is really, instilling in this team. Not that, players don't have it, but it's on a whole nother level right now. So,
and I think that's a perfect transition to wrap this up because we have exceeded the time limit. So I think it's just because we're so invested in the conversation. So I think it's to the fans' benefit if they're willing to stay this long. So if you stayed this long, shout out to you. We love you guys. But yeah, we're gonna wrap it up. And if we have anything to continue to talk about in further episodes, we'll touch on it. But enjoy Game 6. We don't know the result yet as of this recording, but if there's a Game 7, Jovan and I will touch on it. If there's not, then we might touch on the NBA champions, Milwaukee Bucks. But we'll see.
Before we go, I do want to say everybody, including me, said that when Giannis re-signed with the Bucks, that he didn't want to win a championship. Including me, I said that. I said he don't want to win. Why would he do that? And he's doing it. So I just want to throw that out there.
Yeah, he's proven everybody. He's not. I want to say, like, I'm gonna put it in the words of Dexter Lawson Jr. Like what he says, the type of player he is. He doesn't want to prove everyone wrong. He just wants to prove himself right.
1,000%.
He has a positive mindset, and I think that's exactly what Giannis has. And with that being said, Go check out our interview with Dexter Lawson Jr. It was a phenomenal interview. It was an honor. It was a pleasure to have him on the show.
Dude's gonna
Go
be
get
a
to know
stud,
him.
man.
Yeah,
He
go get
already
to know
is.
him as a person. Go follow him on his journey. And also, if you haven't tuned into our first interview with his teammate Tyson James, go do so as well. They're both gonna be studs.
Yeah.
They both have a great future
Not
ahead of
even
them.
just on the field. They both their
Yeah,
mindsets are amazing.
exactly. They,
Good
they have
dudes.
they
Good
have they
dudes.
have the right mindset. They have the talent to go with it. They have great things ahead of them, and just go follow them along their journey. Go show love to them on social media, everything. So, with that being said, go check that out. Make sure to like, follow, and subscribe if you love what you're watching or listening to. We just appreciate you guys for tuning in. And then until next time, peace.
You're talking about balls deep. I'm talking about balls deep. We're talking about balls deep in love. I'm talking about balls deep. My boy's talking about balls deep. We're talking about balls deep in love.